Hi, Joseph. How are you?
Belinda, how are you? Perfect child.
I'm wonderful. I'm delighted. I'm so excited for our conversation. This is just something that's so necessary. And
Mm.
it totally speaks to my heart. So let's get started.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to start with your bio.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Joseph Jacques is the co-founder of Harmonic Humanity and founder of The Cast, Birthing Humanity, and Legends of Creation. As a humanitarian, social architect, and cultural storyteller, Joseph is devoted to helping humanity remember what it means to be born into wholeness, individually, generationally, and collectively. Yes,
Mm.
please. After nearly 2 decades of on the ground service working with marginalized and traumatized communities, mainly on the West Coast of the US, Joseph returned to his hometown, Columbus, Ohio, the place of his birth, to draw upon the deep well of his ancestral roots. These roots have become a source of spiritual nutrients, fueling his creative evolution in music, invention, curriculum design, community building, and transformational education.
Mm.
Joseph's latest work, Legends of Creation, is an intersubjective workbook and mythic guide designed to begin 6 to 9 months before conception and continue through in utero, helping families heal intergenerational trauma while awakening the inherent genius encoded in their lineage. The book is both reflective and scientific, merging psychology, myth, epigenetics, and prenatal development into a unified framework for conscious family creation. This book is endorsed by Dr. Jean Houston and Dr. Bruce Lipton. Joseph, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
It's so fun to hear your bio out loud because you're like, wow, who is this guy? Like what's going
I
on?
want to know this guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of work, unseen work that goes into it, and journal after journal after journal after journal, and a lot of studying and research and all these things. But it is a mythic story, and each person has that spark of potential that wants to become the flame actualized, right? And so it's wonderful to hear that, and it's so humbling because it's all the work and all the shoulders that I stand on to be here right now to have
Yes.
this conversation with you. Or it's humbling because it's not my work; it's a collective, inspired, a transformational, mythic journey that we're all on, and we all get to, be in the company of this context, the idea of a perfect child, and the foreshadowing of what a perfect child is. And so to bring it all together and to hear that is just, it's wonderful. So thank you for the platform.
Yeah, it really is wonderful. You're doing God's work.
Mm,
Now, I read your book, Legends of Creation, and it's so powerful. I'm
mm,
so excited for it. So, can you please tell us how your workbook and courses came to be?
mm. Well, it's interesting. It starts off with a very deep personal story. I had my vision when I was 22 years old for the idea of Legends of Creation, and it was there that the what happens is when you have a vision like that, it's just first of all you really don't. I didn't really understand what was happening. I didn't understand to the depths of what I would have, where I'd have to go to actually, you know, peel it all back. There's a quote from, oh gosh, I think it was Leonardo da Vinci. He said, I carved and carved and carved. How does the quote go? Let me make sure I get this right. He said, I carved the stone. Oh boy, now I'm going to mess it up. Let me see, make sure I get this right. Uh, he was somebody came up to him and said, you've created a masterpiece, and you carved this amazing masterpiece. And he said, really, I've done nothing. He said, the angel was already there. He said, I all I did was move away the small pieces. And so I kind of feel like that. It's like I've been moving away the small pieces. The angel of this creation, the angel of this idea and this philosophy was already there, but I had to carve it through years and of studying and years of corresponding and years of going through all these different processes that allowed me to be here now with this book, this intersubjective workbooklet. And like you did mention, it does start 6 to 9 months before conception and go through in utero. So the mythos goes where I was always inspired. My father inspired me the most. He started a scuba shop in 1968 here in Columbus, Ohio, and he taught me to scuba dive when I was just 3 years old. And so Dad would always say surfaces can be seen, but depths need to be explored. And so with that adventurous kind of Indiana Jones mindset of exploration, of being the anthropologist, of being the person who has to dig to find the treasure, that was that hero's journey that I was on. And my dad set the tone at a very young age for me to go underneath the surface, to dive underneath the surface to see what was there. And in essence, to find that a proverbial treasure. And for me, now with this intersubjective book called Legends of Creation, that is the treasure, that is the boon, that is the thing that I'm presenting my community with. This is the opportunity to heal the intergenerational trauma that's handed down, and b address the genius that wants to come forward, that human potential, that seed of potential that wants to be activated and actualized. And so that's really where we are with Legends of Creation. It's always exciting because the book is this deep dive into self. So the woman and the man before conception have the very powerful and conscious conversation about what type of family, conscious family, they want to bring to the world. And so through that idea, they have that conversation. They bring the spirit child into the conversation, and this all happens through the whole idea of the curriculum. And you also get a coach. You get a personalized coach with this curriculum. So your hand is held to some degree, and you
Yeah.
all work through the whole program, which is 15 months or 18 months, depending on what you choose to do. So the
Right.
inspiration started way back and has manifested into this idea of Legends of Creation.
Well, and what you have told me before was that you were working with homeless people on the streets and you would
Mm,
ask them questions. And what
that's
you
right.
found that was common, that was told as far as their history, is a lot of them were traumatized at a young age, were
That's right.
not made to matter.
That's right.
And so
And
this is sort of like, this is what came of your
it it
interactions.
it definitely is an answer to that question, and we need that work through Harmonic Humanity. And you can check out the website; it's beautiful. We just stripped it down to all videos on the main page, which really tells a story of the 16 years of work that both myself and AJ Lovewins, who is the founder of Harmonic Humanity, did. And that work was so powerful, Belinda, because being on the streets and seeing that type of trauma day in and day out was just heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking, and I said to myself, as a social architect, as a humanitarian, if I was going to play a larger role, I was going to do what I came here to do, and that was Legends of Creation. So we still have the nonprofit, but we're re-mythologizing it, we're reworking it. After COVID, we got our ass kicked by the fact that all of our funders kind of fell through, and everybody,
Yeah,
and that happened to a lot of nonprofits. Cheap people, all the
right.
philanthropists and benefactors, kind of just like they they folded. And so we're in the reinventing stage of harmonic humanity. But what you just spoke into, what you just brought to the table, was the fact that there was a call to heal. And so if we're going to heal homelessness, we want to start before conception. And so that's the key message. And yes, the idea of it taking a generation to do that, or at least reduce it, is a conversation that I'm having with others, individuals who are humanitarians and social architects and embryologists, to start the conversation before conception. So if we're going to heal homelessness, if we're going to reduce mental illness, if we're going to reduce trauma, um, if we're going to address those very powerful cultural themes, we've got to start the conversation before sperm hits egg. And so there is a genetic and an epigenetic conversation that needs to happen. That's why Dr. Bruce Lipton, gave me his endorsement. And it's a beautiful endorsement. I don't know if you get a chance to read it. But the endorsements, I have two endorsements, one from Dr. Gene Houston and one from Dr. Bruce Lipton. And he is the father of epigenetics. And so that was a wonderful acknowledgement that this work is scientific. It is important. We are retelling a new story, and a regenesis of the pregnancy process. So it's a very, very exciting time. Very exciting.
It really is. And this is why I was so excited to have this conversation, because the work that I do with Perfect Child is to share the stories of people who
Mm,
have done things differently. And what
mm,
I see as a parent is, oh, there's so much unfolding to do and so much deprogramming from the ways we've been raised. And
mm,
so the conversation as parents is that we see this child as perfect. And so the child is actually the teacher. And so,
mm,
how can we work through our traumas and triggers, because this is just a mirror, so that we can allow our children to actually be raised in an environment where they're seen and heard and respected? And so, when
mm.
I saw what you do, and I'm like, wait, what? We can do this work before we have a baby, and that's totally conscious creation.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Because when I go through your book, the questions that you're having the parents go through, and the fact that it's a woman and a man together, or like two women, or whoever wants to bring in two men, whoever wants to bring in a child to
Hmm.
together relationally work through their own traumas together and
Hmm.
calling in the soul of the child.
Mm.
Like, what? This is how we change humanity.
That's right.
Consciousness at all levels.
Yeah. Now
It's
it's so, thank you for that. And I'm grateful for your excitement and inspiration, because that's what it's all about. That's what kept me keep diving underneath the surface, is the inspiration and the commitment that really gave birth to a certain level of profound creativity, uh, that I realized that needed to be integrated and laid out in a very easy path to follow for mom and dad. And it can be two fathers with in conjunction. It can be two fathers or two mothers. If it's two fathers or two mothers and they choose not to birth, you would work through the book. You would work with the biological mother, right? So it's the whole, but
yes,
right?
wow.
So you don't want to
Yeah.
leave out the epigenetics of the mother. You don't want to leave out the story,
Right.
because there is a story that happens, and so through the whole gestalt of all of that, there is. There wants to be something greater than the sum of its parts, and when all those souls come together with the absolute intention to bring a child into the world through Legends of Creation, and you have a coach. I want the audience to get that you do have support. You have that kind of biopsychosocial midwife,
Right.
who,
Right.
in back in the days, the historical element of a midwife was actually they were responsible for two major events in life. One was the birth, and then one was the death. They took care of both. So the idea that this curriculum is about inspiration, it's about commitment, it's about creativity, it's about integration, and it sets the stage for two other things to come forward. One is the art and science of transformation, because that is what happens. You transform, and what transformation really means is that you let that die which no longer serves life. And then the other element, which is peace, that cultivating that serenity, that beauty, and genius. So it really is about looking at the human potential that your mother and father have in their lineage, and bring that forward, that which is um, beautiful, whole. That story, maybe your mother was a classically trained pianist, your father was a great artist. We want to look at those things and we want to bring those things forward. So through the curriculum, all those questions are really asked. And so the mother and father get to get really clear about them designing a full learning in utero program for the whole family. And that's part of the curriculum as well. And that's very exciting, because that just there's not a curriculum out there that allows the mother and the father to A, heal the intergenerational trauma, and B, amplify genius all before conception. So the idea of a perfect child, or let's just say heaven on earth, is a conversation that we can revisit as a great mythos of our time, because whether you're giving birth to a child or giving birth to humanity, we get to have the conversation, and that conversation starts before conception. So yeah, everybody, the Hollywood scene, end of the world scenario is not what I identify with. I do
No.
realize that the end is near, in the sense that we're no longer going to play that narrative out.
Right. Right.
We're going to do something that we should have always done and we always had the power to do, and
Yeah.
that is write our own story
Right.
of who we are
Mhm.
in this realm, how
Mhm.
we choose to be, do, and relate, and
Mhm.
then create the massive mythos, the wonderful open collaboration that allows all of us to know our seed of potential, how it's actualized, who we are in the story, and how we're going to have the most fun ever.
Right. And we begin with wholeness.
We begin with
That's the
wholeness.
whole point. We begin with wholeness. We are 100% whole.
That's exactly right. Now, what happens is people forget. They in war, they say you get dismembered, you lose an arm or you lose a leg in war. We're here to remember those that have forgot who we are. In fact,
Yes.
I always say that I'm here to help humanity remember what it means to be born into wholeness.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So
Yes.
those that they're those that are kind of still in the blue pill, and those that are slowly starting to take the red pill. Within that's a referencing the Matrix.
Right.
But the idea of waking up into that the story has been written onto us. There is a phrase called tabula rasa,
Yeah.
which is a very dangerous notion. Called tabula rasa means blank slate, and
Hmm.
most people feel that the child is a blank slate from which to write on, and
Right.
that is a
No.
very very dangerous notion. There
Right.
is another term called an innatism. It looks like innateism, but
Uh-huh.
it's the philosophical epistemological doctrine that holds that your child is born with ideas and knowledge.
Yes.
Okay, that's a
100%.
whole different ball game. And
Yeah.
now the distinctions are profound, because you're saying, wow, this child has something to bring to the family dynamic. And within Legends of Creation, that is just that's implicit. That is already
Yes.
known. We already accept the fact that if
Right.
through meditation, through tapping in, through tuning in, that you can hear the whisperings of that spirit child. And even David B. Chamberlain in his book, check it out. If you haven't seen his book, please, to your entire audience, his book is called Windows to the Womb by David B. Chamberlain.
Ooh.
And it is the most profound book that you'll ever read. Definitely put that on your list to read,
Okay.
as well as Dr. Thomas Verney's book, which is part of the curriculum that I have the mother and the father read, which is called The Secret Life of an Unborn Child.
Mm-hmm.
Two books you need to make sure you have on your shelf if you're a birth psychologist, or you're healing trauma, or you're amplifying genius, or you just care about the beginning stages of life. Those are two
Right.
books that are wonderful. David B. Chamberlain writes, embryology properly understood can contribute to the intellectual revolution of how we see ourselves as human beings. And he has a whole chapter dedicated to the spirit child coming to the mother in their dreams, having the conversation, saying things like, well, first of all, my name is Sally, and my room, I want to make sure you know, my room is blue, baby blue.
Yeah.
I want the
Yeah.
crib over in the corner next to the window. I mean, things like that, where it just gives you
Yes.
chills, and you're like, wait a
Yes.
second. The spirit of the child having this conversation through dreams, through
Yeah.
meditation, there is a window there
Yeah.
that is directly to the womb and to the heart and spirit of the mother and father, if they're willing and open to receive that divine message that wants to come
Right.
through. And what's the message? Well, boy, talk about a paradigm shift, talk about a spiritual revolution of actually listening to that spirit child that just came from this ultimate God space with all its wisdom, and coming into the family dynamic. What questions do we have for that spirit child?
Right.
This is the
Yes.
beginning. I mean, we're literally at the beginning of this
Yeah.
massive mythos that we're excited to bring through Legends of Creation. And so it's a very exciting time. There is a lot to unpack. We're a culture that's much like a abusive and alcoholic father that doesn't realize that his behavior is damaging to the family, and so there is a lot to undo and unravel. But that is the great hero's journey of our time, Belinda. That is, smooth seas make bad sailors, right? So
Right. Right.
we need that outer drama to reveal the interior mythic of,
Right.
why we came because we're here to serve wholeness,
Right.
we're here to bring together opposites, we're here to find a language with our opposite. And so I feel that everybody gets so caught up in, this is really bad what's happening. It is, but we want to make sure we use morality to judge immoral behaviors, and in a way um, that does bring more wholeness, but in a way that gets away from kind of a problem centered and looking at it through the lens of a solution centered, where the wholeness is done through transformation, it's done through peace, it's done through love, it's done through community, and it's done through curriculums like Legends of Creation, so we can start to remember who we are and why we're here, right?
Well, and also because we can't really create solutions for other people. And so what's the beauty behind Legends of Creation is the intention that a human being sets when they decide they want to bring a child in.
Mm,
Because when you do your own self-work to find your own wholeness, then
mm.
you're more able to create a space that allows the wholeness of your own child to unfold.
Whew. Mm. Amen. Beautifully
And
put.
so, yeah, so what you've created is Legends of Creation Academy. It's a
Mhm.
3-month training that prepares practitioners to teach this curriculum within their own communities.
Mhm.
I know that on your website you have said, midwives, doulas, etc., people. So besides those, who are you imagining calling in to become practitioners? Because when I think about who I would love to see becoming practitioners is fathers in
Mm.
marginalized communities.
Wow. That is a powerful stand. Well, I was having a conversation with probably one of the greatest midwives here on planet Earth, and she has an entire clinic in Bali called Bahomi Sahat, and her name is Robin Lim. And we know of each other. I was introduced to Robin Lim through a beautiful musician named Michael Franti. And
Mm.
Franti said, do you know the work of this woman when I was hanging out in Bali? And I said, I didn't. I don't know who this is. He said, "You've got to meet her." And so he took me. We rode our scooters over there, and Bali's such a cool place. And if you ever get a chance to check it out, but it
Yep.
is definitely a spiritual place.
Yeah.
It is my spiritual getaway for sure.
Yeah.
And we were having a conversation, Robin and I, and she got a chance to check out the curriculum, and she said, "Joseph, there's so many pregnancy books for women. There's too many. We need a pregnancy book for men." And I really think that if you can frame Legends of Creation, that's why the tagline is Legends of Creation, a father's role in
Yes.
pregnancy, a
Right.
mother's journey in becoming.
Right.
And so to really, a lot of the men are kind of, they want to help, but they're kind of on the sidelines, and they
Yeah.
don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you acknowledged that piece, because we are in this very frail, beaten, bullied, and bruised masculine dynamic that doesn't know what to do, and is looking for some guidance about what conscious parenting is. And so when you decide to do the academy, we help in the practitioners to really understand the full dynamics of psychology, of sociology, of storytelling, of spirituality. I mean, it's so much wholeness. Because when you play that role of that practitioner that's wielding Legends of Creation, it's more than just a biological understanding of the pregnancy process. It's all in there. It's understanding story-based strategy. It's understanding the hero's journey. It's understanding
Yeah.
transformation. It's understanding what it means to cultivate a peaceful way of being within the family dynamic. There's so much in there that you learn in this 3 months. And then after which you are certified, and you can start to use Legends of Creation for your own purposes, create your own business plan around Legends, charge whatever you would like. It is open source in the sense that we want this to go all over the world, and we want it to be in multiple languages.
Yeah.
And so it really is a whole entire movement that we want to create. And we can't do that unless we actually have the academy that does take the time to facilitate a more in-depth conversation about what are the details, what's the curriculum, how does it flow, how do you feel, let's check in. So all that's within the constructs of the academy, and obviously it's all based on the curriculum of Legends of Creation. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I feel like all those characteristics that you listed of what the practitioners will be learning in 3 months, it's transformational and all of that, like all of those words that you use, I feel like resonate with men.
Mm,
They because they are looking for that. They're
mm,
looking for a transformation. They want to be a little bit different because there's more to life than just being the monetary provider of a family.
that's right. That's right. Well, it's interesting because we're in a very interesting time where all through history, men have designed most of the systems that we all use today, devoid of feminine, what I call biofeminine architecture. And what is that? What does biofeminine architecture mean? That means this symbology and the metaphors of what the placenta, what the umbilical, and what the womb actually mean, and what they stand for, and what they mean metaphorically and symbolically. And
Right.
and so if you this is something really interesting to do. If the audience member wants to try this, go to a chat GP and type in what happens when we integrate the bioarchitecture of the womb, the placenta, and the umbilical into all major systems that we use every single day.
Oh, what amazing.
Because that is a revolution in itself. Because if you look at that now, all what I said before is
Mhm.
all major systems, whether it's a healthcare system, or whether it's the banking system, the economic system, or whether it's um, any system, entertainment. I listed like 21 of them, but they're devoid of. There were, what I say is there wasn't any women at the table when those things were designed.
Right.
And so, if you don't allow women into the conversation about a system, then the system itself over time becomes perverted, pathological, and parasitical. And that's where we're at right now. Is we have right now we have a culture that's eating its own tail and breathing its own exhaust and calling it a way of
Oh yeah.
life
Oh yeah.
because of the lack of biofeminine architecture into all systems.
Yeah.
So I throw that out there to the audience because it's provocative. It allows you to think about, okay, so what is the role of the placenta? What is the role of the umbilical? What is the role of the womb? And how that cannot be integrated into the social system?
Yeah.
How can that create the golden thread that allows all of us to follow it into wholeness? Because that is the conversation that you spoke of in the very top of the show. Is like, no, we're born into wholeness, but
Yeah.
we've got to remember that we're born into wholeness. We've got to move away the small pieces, and the
Right.
only way that's going to happen is for us to be the living bridge of the men and the women, and to look at our divine innate architecture
Yeah.
and then use that as all the systems and stories that define our reality. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's a coming together. It's considering the container and all the nutrients and then the lifeline.
Yeah.
Not it's I feel like most systems today are created to address a problem, a band-aid, because they've created the problem and now they're selling you the solution, which is every
Yeah.
system that we have. And
That's right.
that's not the way we build systems but the only reason why we build those systems is because we're not whole. We're not whole people because we're not raised that way. But now things are changing because of things like this.
Well, we have the opportunity to get clear about what's a red light in our community, what's a yellow light
Yeah,
in our community, what's a
right,
green light in our community.
right.
Garrett Morgan created the traffic light system in 1916, and it is when you look at systems that are designed to keep humanity safe. That is the number one system that has ever been created that keeps millions and millions of people on the road today safe and away from harm. Now that is a whole system. That it red light means stop, yellow means caution, green light means go. So we've got to get clear as a culture. What is a red light in our community? What's a yellow light in our community? What's a green light? So we can keep moving forward in a productive, safe way, right?
But when you're talking about the stoplight system,
Yeah.
what I think about is because we've designated that as a safety factor to keep humanity safe,
Hmm.
the problem with that, in my mind, is that you've taken away people's natural ability to be polite and work together to create their own system. So if
That's
you were to
okay.
take away the
Yeah.
whole stoplight system, then people would come together and figure it out for themselves.
Well, the stoplight system is just a metaphor,
Right.
and the idea of the red light is okay, you see a child running toward a busy street. That's
Yeah.
a red light.
That's a hard line.
That needs to be stopped and
Right.
redirected.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
When my buddy Rylan Engelhardt, he's doing this whole campaign on regenerative agriculture because
Right.
they're spraying pesticides on our food and
Right. Right.
engineering. Again, that's a red light in our community. So we
Mm,
and trauma that's being handed down intergenerationally, a red light in our community. Now,
yeah.
that
Right.
all being said, as a conscious community, as conscious parents, as conscious farmers, we all come together, like you said, and
Yes.
we decide
Yes.
collectively in
Yes.
our story
Yeah.
what is a red light in our community and
Yeah.
how do we use our communication, how do we use
Right.
democracy in essence to get to a yellow
Yes.
light. The
The
yellow
real
lights, all the yellow
democracy.
light symbolizes is the conversation, is
Right.
what Arnold Mandel calls deep democracy.
Right.
And then we all decide as the group, as all men and women, using all of our bioarchitecture that's handed to us by God, by the way. That's a
Yep.
God system. This is
Yeah.
God's school for world making, by the way,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Not man-made system, not a man-made system. When
Right.
I think of man-made, it's because I'm a man and I think to myself, boy, we've got to reel it back in, and we get to start bringing in females to hear what they want, how they want to reimagine that system, so we can go from a red light to a yellow light to a green light. And then once it's all a green light, we're all go, and we're all in
Yeah.
our specific particular space of where we are most empowered.
Yes.
Now we're talking about heaven on earth, where we're using God's system
Yep.
and honoring men and women. But as we honor the God system, then we honor ourselves, and it's
Right.
just reciprocal. It's
Yes.
regenerative. It's
Yes.
regenerative, right?
Reciprocity and regeneration. Those are the green lights. They're the let's go. Let's go.
That's what
Like that's
Matthew McConaughey's big mission right now, is green light. And I think he came. I don't know. I haven't read his book, which is I really need to read his book. But he's got a whole campaign on green lights, and I'd be interested to find out, what his ideas around that idea. I call, in my architecture, I have all this different social architecture, and that particular piece right there, which I'll send you, is called TLC, traffic light contexts. And
uh-huh.
it's called TLC for community, tender loving care for,
Yes,
but
yes.
traffic light context is for community, to keep humanity safe and out of harm, is the intention, is the
Right.
overall intention, right?
Right. I want to go to there is an intro video that you share on your website, and in it, you share a quote from Gabor Mate. And it's
Hmm.
if you don't address the wound at its source, then you will suffer its evolution. And that is
Yeah.
literally where we're at right now. We've
Well,
been
it's interesting
suffering the evolution of that wound for a while
that,
now.
and that's profound, because it happens on an individual level, and it's happening on a collective level, and it's
Yes.
happening very, very quickly. And if you don't address the wound, what that does is the subconscious mind. If you don't address the wound, then the subconscious mind habituates that into beliefs, into
Hmm.
values,
Yep.
into identity,
Yep.
into prejudice, into war, into, in essence, a perverted worldview,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you don't address the wound and its source, then you will suffer its evolution. Yes, we are suffering in the evolution of that. Is it a red light? It's definitely a red light. Through conversation, through Legends of Creation, through a Perfect Child, through all these other different
All the work that
platforms,
so
that
many
all
people are
that's out there
doing.
in the world right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
we get to keep having that conversation,
Yeah.
so that we can rewrite the
Yeah.
story, and we can have the conversation of what it means to birth humanity.
Yeah.
That's the next part of my evolution. I've written a book, which is Legends of Creation, and then I've also written a film called Birthing Humanity.
Hmm.
So the book stands on the shoulders. I'm sorry, the movie stands on the shoulders of the book,
Yeah.
because biologically, psychologically, and socially and spiritually, if we're going to start the pregnancy process before conception, we
Hmm.
also need to start the process of birthing humanity before
Yeah.
before conception, right?
Right.
So
Right.
and what's great is all these human potential leaders, all the cultural creatives, all the farmers, all the
Hmm.
conscious men and women, all the ones that are completely and totally awake, saying, well, let's go, let's start this process again, but let's do a new reiterated version of the Declaration of Independence, but let's bring in females, and let's
Right.
have it balanced. So it's not
Yeah.
just we the people, which is one of the greatest statements of our time. But if it doesn't, if do no harm doesn't follow we the people, then it's enslave we the people. It's poison we the people. It's
Right.
it traumatize we the people.
Right.
We're done with that story. Now women bring in do no harm. The placenta is acts, the social placenta, the physical and literal placenta, is the lungs, the kidneys, and the liver. It filters out toxins before getting to the fetus. Well, we have
Hmm.
something to learn there. We are poisoning our children. We're
Hmm.
poisoning our families
Yep.
through the air,
Yep.
through the water, through the
Food.
food. And
Hmm.
so So we have to get very clear about who we are in the story. What is our great hero's journey? The hero starts with the striving of an individual, but ends in the healing of a community. That's a quote by
Yes.
Anna Dea Judith. I
I
love that. The
love that.
hero
I love
starts
that.
with the striving of an individual, but
Yes.
ends in the healing of a community.
Yes.
So we're at the very edge of this very high and beautiful wave. It's time that we tell a new story of a world in
Yep.
transition.
Yes.
The idea of this film, Birthing Humanity, is wonderful because it tells a story of two protagonists, Jake and Emma Love. Emma is, and I'll send this to you, but Emma is a cognitive neuroscientist at the University of San Francisco. Jake is a social worker at the homeless prenatal program. So he works at a social level with homeless pregnant women. She works at a cognitive, she's a professor,
Yes.
so she teaches students about what's happening with the brain. They're both humanitarians. They're both geniuses. They found each other, two geniuses who found each other, and they're choosing to have a child, but they both have trauma in their family
Of
dynamic.
course. Right.
And so this is very much a goodwill hunting, but for
Yes.
humanity to know itself and to birth itself in a very conscious manner. So it allows us to have a deeper, wider worldview conversation
Mm-hmm.
of what's
Mm-hmm.
happening in the inner structure of Legends of Creation. So it's a
Right.
wider meta view of a micro movement, which is Legends. But that's what we get to do. We get to keep um, moving our story forward
Yes.
and keep uh, addressing our human potential and addressing our families and friends' human potential, so we can do this all together. Because this is going to take everybody that sees the importance of writing a story to come together and do just that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think everybody is ready to write a new story because the
Yeah,
old one's boring.
it's
Now,
just it's just horrible. It's
it's horrible.
horrible. Yeah.
Can I read your sort of, I think it's a poem that you include in the book at the end, and it's called
Yeah.
Preparing for Birth.
That was a
I
good
love
one.
it so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's called Preparing the Way. Before the child arrives, there is a sacred pause in the universe, a stillness where the past meets the future in the breath of two becoming three or four. The mother begins not only to grow a child, but to become a living temple. Her mind, her body, her soul opening like the earth to receive starlight. She's not just forming bones and breath, but rewriting the story of her lineage. She listens inward, where the heartbeat of the cosmos echoes in the womb. The Father, too, is not waiting, he is awakening. He stands at the edge of a threshold called to presence, to protect, to pierce his own history with light. His healing is no less essential. He is the grounding, the witness, the first storyteller who teaches the unborn child that love has a voice. Together, they are not only creating a baby, they are co authoring a new legend, one that refuses to repeat the pain of forgotten ancestors, one that chooses to pass on not wounds but wisdom. They speak to the soul before it enters. Come, little one, we've cleared the path for you. We've done the work to remember who we are so you can remember who you are even sooner. This conception reborn as intention, as healing, as the highest art. This is how new worlds begin by Joseph Jacques. The whole time I'm reading it just gives me chills because it's just so, so beautiful. This is how
Mm,
we want to bring babies in. We want to
mm,
bring them in whole.
mm. And
Ah,
I've got to give it up to David B. Chamberlain. When I was having my visions, I didn't know where to turn, and I just kept I just started writing. And um, the story goes is was in Seattle at the time, and I didn't know what to do with this work. I wrote a paper that was about a 27, 28 page paper that went into the details of all these things. And I remember knocking on the door of a cognitive neuroscientist, and I said, she opened the door, and I think I was in a rock band at the time, so my hair was purple, and I look crazy. And but I said, how? I said, I have just one question for you. How conscious is the fetus in utero? And this cognitive neuroscientist, being a cognitive neuroscientist, she says, well, there's no measurement of that. It doesn't exist. And I put my hands on my head and I'm just like, she said, what's wrong? I said, well, she said, would you like to sit down? And I said, yes. I said, I don't understand. How, I don't understand that the fetus cannot be conscious in utero. How is that possible? It contradicts everything that I've been studying and all my intuitions and everything. And she says, well, scientifically, there's no measurement of that. And I'm a scientist. And I'm like, and I almost started crying. She's like, sit down. We became best friends. We became really good friends. And she helped me with my research. And she got me to, she found this gentleman named David B. Chamberlain. And she said, I think you're going to love this guy. And she sent me his paper called The Expanding Boundaries of Memory. Um, and in there, the first quote was, infants do not wait for us to fill their minds. They're already thinking persons ready to influence us if we're ready to enter
Yes.
dialogue with them.
Yes. Thank
And I
you.
that was the first thing that I read, and I'm like, oh my God, I found my guy. I found my
Yep.
guy. And I sent him my paper, and I didn't realize how profound he was. And we had a friendship for about 15 years, and he would send me copies to his book when he was writing Windows to the Womb. And we would have these in-depth conversations. It was just beautiful, Belinda. It was that angel that I needed to guide me into the work even deeper and further.
Right.
And I would highly suggest, oh God, please have your audience, if you're inspired by anything, go get Windows to the Womb, and you'll just love it. You'll just love it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna have to get it. Thank you so much. This is just such good work. I really enjoyed our conversation and just your
Cool.
passion for the consciousness of the unborn child.
Mm, It's time, and we have such humanity has such great potential.
Yes.
Um, I'll leave you with a quote, and it goes out to the one actor who could play all the parts, and it's by Emerson. And he said, this goes out to the one actor who could play all the parts, the scholar, the poet, the transcendentalist, the active soul, whatever their name, their occupation was always the same to fuse passion and intellect, imagination, reason, and soul, to open doors everywhere to the deepest realms of the subconscious as well as to the sublime, to try out ideas, to become like nature itself, always growing, always changing, always becoming something new. Because the penalty for standing still was death.
So good.
Thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for a perfect child. Thank you for creating a container where we can all come and express who we are and all the gifts that we have. It's time. More truth telling platforms that you're creating, this platform of inspiration, of commitment, of creativity, of integration, of how we can all integrate and find a common ground where we're all honored in our own individual story and honored to the meta story, that great mythos that we're all telling together. So let us keep coming together. Keep
Yes.
being inspired, family. Don't
Yeah.
lose your this spark that's ready to become the flame. So thank you very
Right.
much. And this is Joseph Jacques. Yeah,
I'll talk to you soon, Joseph.
bye bye.
Bye.